Yeah, the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Joe Staszak along with my good friend Steve Kallas. Time for another episode of Kallas Remarks with yours truly and the man of the hour. Steve, how you doing, my friend?
All good, Joe. Great to be with you as always.
Well, if ESPN is going to wait 12 minutes to get into their baseball, we're going to get into it right away because last night, I was out with the wife. I took me to see Hamilton. I'm glad you texted me and said Chris Taylor is about to bat for an opportunity. His fourth home run in the World Series. No one's ever done it. Reggie did it back with 3 in 70-something, late 70s. He swung for the fences. I was rooting for him big time, too. That home run he hit, the walk-off early in the playoffs, I'm a big fan of his now. I love his swing. And they survived and advanced to the next game. Can they survive the series?
Well, they did the same thing last year. They were down 3-1 to the Braves, and they beat the Braves. I thought the more interesting thing was going back.
The Bellinger?
Chris Taylor's great. He's unbelievable. And oh, by the way, I think he's a free agent, so you're going to make some money.
Made some money.
But when they were up 2-0, when the Braves were up 2-0, they were ahead 5-2 in the 8th.
Yeah.
And Cody Bellinger, who couldn't have had a worse year. He was horrific all year.
200.
But he's been good in the playoffs, and he hit a humongous home run. And if somehow the Dodgers come back, because they looked like they were going to be down 3-0, and only one team, the Red Sox against the Yankees in 2004, came back from 3-0 in the history of baseball. So Bellinger saved the day, and then Mookie in the same inning, Mookie Betts drove in that go-ahead run, and they survived. Now Atlanta comes back and beats them pretty easily, so give Atlanta credit. But now the Dodgers come back and win, and I think it has to start to creep into your mind if you're on the Braves, because they started Max Fried, their best guy, the lefty, yesterday, and he got smacked around a bit. And I think the Dodgers can come back because now it's got to be in your head. We could have been up 3-0. Okay, we blew it, and we even came back and won the next game to go up 3-1. But we were up 3-1 last year. And now we're up 3-2. So it's got to start to be creeping into your head. Like I always thought the year that the Yankees lost, I didn't think they'd lose, but it has to be you're up 3-0 and you win 1 and they win 1 in at 3-1. But then it's 3-2. And then, oh my goodness, if they force a game 7, and then it becomes, oh my goodness, it's never happened in the history of baseball. And it did. So I think similarly here, especially since the same thing happened last year, Atlanta was up 3-1 over the Dodgers, and the Dodgers came back and won 3 games. Do I think they can do it? Well, I think they can do it, but Muncy's not playing. You saw Turner with the hamstring just running down to first base. Turner's out, and that's 2 pretty big guys. But, Chris Taylor is obviously the MVP right now if they come back and win. But he's been incredible. He's been clutch. He's been a good player for a long time. I think he's climbing to another level. So do I think the Dodgers can do it? Yes. Do I think they will do it? I think they have a pretty good chance to do it. And again, the
Scherzer in game 6.
Yeah, and the more it creeps into your head, I think instant replay of last year. But give Taylor credit. But yeah, I did text you because it was incredible. It was late, but it was like, wow, we've never seen this. And it's the only time he swung for the fences, which is the old when you try to hit a home run. You can't just try and make good hard contact. And he swung at a bad pitch down low. He did hit 1 hard line drive down the third baseline, but the guy's fantastic. And let's not forget AJ Pollock with 2 home runs of his own. So that's
how about that guy hits 2 home runs in a World Series game. He's not the top story.
He's an afterthought. I'll give you one more thing on 3 home runs. So everybody talks about Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, 1977, hit 3 home runs on 3 pitches. The most incredible thing that ever happened. So in the history of baseball, it's happened 12 times. And postseason game, I'd rather leave it for the World Series, but that's just me. But only one guy did it twice. And of course, it's Babe Ruth. Does anybody even say that? So it's happened 12 times. 11 guys have done it. Ruth did it twice, both on the road.
Wow.
So Jackson did it at home. And of course, he's Mr. October. Was he better than Babe Ruth? Of course not. But whatever, you know how I am with the old timers. But this was also a final thing on Chris Taylor. This is the first time anyone's ever hit 3 home runs in the postseason game when his team was facing elimination. And to me, that's a minor big deal as well. I still don't equate these home runs with World Series home runs. And now I'm seeing the numbers, Bernie Williams has 29 postseason home runs. But everybody forget it's like Mantle with 18 World Series home runs because there was nothing else when he played. Babe Ruth with 15 World Series home runs because there was nothing else when he played. And I think the first three World Series he was a pitcher. So think if these guys played in these 4-round playoff wild card games count. I mean, guys like Ruth and Mantle, they probably have 35 or 40. And I just, there should always be two lists every postseason home runs
and World Series
home runs. Because that's when you find out, and I don't know what the numbers are for Williams. Jeter has more postseason home runs than Mantle or Ruth. Give me a break.
Right.
Well, whatever. I mean, that's not taking anything away from those guys. But World Series is a different deal to me. But, give Taylor credit. It's interesting. I don't know. This is an Elias Sports Bureau question. I wonder how many guys got up in the World Series game with a chance to hit a fourth home run.
Right.
I don't know the answer to that, but they were all probably swinging for the fences. And if it happened before, that they didn't hit a home run, obviously, because we know about it. But I give Taylor a lot of credit. He's going to make a lot of money. He's a very good player who's going to another level.
Amazing. I thought you were going to say Oscar Robertson did it like back in the day, but all right, let's talk about the other series real quick. Houston, I think they're the better team. Boston has kind of had that mojo this postseason. They face elimination. I know it's the battle of the cheaters. What do you think? What do you think about that situation?
Well, it's hard for me to watch that series. I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry. Can they ever, either of them? When does that moniker drop? When can they actually win a legitimate and be considered a legitimate World Series champion?
Certainly Dusty Baker thinks, and maybe a lot of Houston fans think, if they win it all this year, then they've done it. But not to me. I'm sorry. This is to me almost on the level, if not on the level, of the Black Sox.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Not throwing the World Series. It's obviously the opposite, but to openly cheat like that, to have a complicit manager. Oh, I broke the TV twice. And I'm rooting for the Red Sox, which is hard for me to say, only because Cora's got, who knows what the Red Sox did in 2018, but we know what Houston did. We know because all the players testified to it. Why? Because they got immunity.
Can you believe that?
They don't get public immunity. And to me, that's forever.
Yeah.
And I think they should have pulled that World Series from them. I really do. They should have vacated it. Because when they all retire, they can show up at all these card shows and this show and autograph shows, and it's going to be world champion, fill in the blank. Now, maybe they'll win another one, but all those guys are still there. Altuve, Correa, Bregman. I mean, they got a ton of guys still there. And so I'm rooting for the Red Sox because they only have Cora, who might have been the biggest cheater of all because he did it apparently with two teams, depending on what you believe about the Red Sox. But he was the one who was named as one of the key guys. And the other guy, of course, was Carlos Beltran, who lost the Mets manager job after that all came out. People forget. So I'm rooting for the Red Sox. You're right, though. Houston is the better team. They'll probably win. But I'm hoping for the Red Sox to win just on a less cheaters basis. And for me, it'll never go away. I can tell you that.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. That's on the resume for life. Talk a little NFL. Interesting game last night. The Broncos started out 3-0. They did not play anyone really. Now they're 3-4. They were a dog to a Browns team decimated offensively. Baker Mayfield was out. The two running backs were out. The two left tackles. I liked them because I thought everyone loves the Broncos. I don't think they're that good, and I like Case Keenum. I do. A couple years removed from a 13-3 season, did enough to win. They won and covered. This Browns team is a little weird. I mean, they get blown out and played awful against the Cardinals at home. They beat a bad Broncos team with half an offense. And a lot of people they were like the chic pick this year. They seem to have a roster that looks like has the ingredients to be a very good team, but why aren't they?
Well, they were really talking last night about the lack of explosiveness on the part of Beckham. And you kind of thought when he was coming back supposedly healthy, but when you do watch him, he just doesn't have the explosion to get the separation. And that's a huge part of his game. And I think a huge part of their offense. And I agree with you. Case Keenum is he's an excellent backup. He's a better than average. He's an average to better than average NFL quarterback with tons of experience,
Tons.
protects the ball. And I do want to say this, they always have the argument. I don't agree with it 100%, but no Chubb, no Hunt. They bring in Dearness Johnson, who carries 22 times for 146 yards and a TD. So you're sitting there, you're not going there, oh, if Chubb was there, he would have run for 200 yards. You're like, well, maybe these guys, maybe they are a little fungible, but I'd still like the great back. I think the Giants are much worse without Saquon Barkley. They just don't have that threat. But there are some instances where it does appear to be that the running backs are fungible, especially if you have a great offensive line. And I'm not saying the Browns I think they have a very good offensive line, but I don't think they have a great offensive line. But this guy runs, for 146 yards, a lot between the tackles, scores a touchdown, and it's like he could have been Nick Chubb. He could have been Hunt.
Yeah.
And that's frankly what got them the win, coupled with, again, Keenum's ability to not turn the ball over. And I give the Browns credit. The other thing that happened, I don't know if you saw Von Miller. So Von Miller talked a lot, I haven't played well. I'm going to dominate this game. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then he hurt his ankle. And after the game, he was very, I don't know what the word is, sorrowful. He said, I said I was going to dominate this game and I really didn't. And I'm disappointed in myself, but I love Teddy Bridgewater. He's kind of fallen back a little bit, three picks last week. Yeah. I still like him. I think he's a better than average quarterback. And the notion that they were talking about putting Drew Lock in for him.
Oh, stop.
Apparently that was a conversation at halftime, although the sideline reporter who said said she asked the coach and the coach said, no, he's not going in. But you got to wonder if Bridgewater had thrown another pick or two, if they would have taken him out. That's even a question mark is disappointing to me because I thought Bridgewater was up here and I think he's more like over here. But, Denver beat nobody early on. Their 3 wins were against nobody. I mean, literally like
nobody.
Three of the worst teams in football.
Yeah.
So I give the Browns credit for gutting out a win, but you're right. They're very up and down. But I think the big picture problem, because Landry was playing too, is Beckham just is not Beckham. And you know how it is after these. I think he had an ACL, right? It wasn't an Achilles. I think he had an ACL.
He did.
And you see it with guards in basketball. They get an ACL and they come back and they're just not as quick as they used to be. And then they're like every other 6'2" guy in the NBA. And that's a problem. So I don't think the Browns, I thought, I bought into the Rick Morris and his buddy out there when I did the thing. They both picked them to go to the Super Bowl. And one of them picked them to win the Super Bowl. And I'm like, well, they're better. They're good. I don't know about the Super Bowl. And right now that looks like a joke as well. But if they get healthy, I just don't know. You know how with pitchers after Tommy John takes them a year? I don't know if it's going to take Beckham a half a season or a season. Will he have explosiveness at the end of the year? We're just going to have to wait and see.
Okay, let's go back to Monday night because this is why the NFL is so crazy.
Do we have to?
A team, what's that?
Do we have to?
A team that lost to the Jets this year goes up against what I consider top 1 or 2 team in the league. At home, that's fine. Not a great defense. Bills have a great offense, and the quarterback might be an MVP candidate. Very good defense. And they give up 34 points, and you saw how the game ended. Let's talk about the ending because you didn't like it. They had an opportunity to kick a field goal and to take their shot in overtime. And it was pretty much let's win the game or lose the game right here. They didn't have to score. They could have gotten a first down. And they didn't execute. The left tackle missed his block, and Josh Allen slipped, and that was the ball game.
Well, our guy Louis Riddick, who we love, was like before the snap, he was like, I think this is a great idea. They're trying to establish a culture here in Buffalo. First of all, they had a great year last year.
Yeah.
The Chiefs killed them in the playoffs. So the notion that this culture is being developed is a little ridiculous. But I'll say it again, as I texted you, right then and there before the snap, there's only one way you can lose the game. Mm-hmm. The way you can lose the game is go for it on 4th and inches right there. if you kick the field goal, and this is an all-time extra point field goal, you take your chances in overtime. If you win the flip, you're the Bills, you can score a touchdown. If you lose the flip, you've got a pretty good defense. You're right, they gave up 34, but you have a pretty good defense, and you can at least hold them to a field goal. I thought the advantage was to Buffalo in overtime, 100% if they won the coin flip, and maybe it was more like 50-50 if they lost the coin flip. But they're the more explosive team. Henry ran for that 76-yard touchdown. He did what Henry does. But I really thought it was a huge mistake before the play to go for it, because I'll say it again, it's the only way they could have lost the game. And the culture that Louis Riddick, who we love, is talking about establishing, it's already established. It's already established. So I thought it was a huge mistake. I thought the Bills deserved to lose. I was as shocked as you were. I thought they were easy winners. And you'll tell me it's week to week in the NFL. The Titans actually lost to the Jets a couple of weeks ago. And the Jets had floundered before, and they've been floundering since. But they did beat the Titans. You know, that's incredible to me.
So the Titans now come back off that win, short week. They're at home. You know, I like home dogs against a team that can't stop anybody, the Kansas City Chiefs. 4.5. They're in my plays. So and I just gave away one of my plays. But what do you think of that line? And is it a letdown week for the Titans, or are they kind of going to build on that? The Chiefs can't stop anybody.
And of course they have Derrick Henry, so they might
Derrick
put 9,
Henry.
They might put 9 in the box.
Right.
But and now Tannehill, you know, he does have AJ Brown. Not to defend them against the Jets, but they had no receivers, no AJ Brown. And now they do have receivers. So I think the problem with picking for or against the Chiefs is you don't know. You're right, they can't stop anyone. But then the next question becomes, okay, but can they win 41-38? And the answer is yes, they can win 41-38. And can they put up 41 on the Titans? I thought Buffalo was going to put up 41. They put up 30. They put up 31, but there were times when the Titans had some big stops. I just couldn't see it. Allen holding the ball a few times too long. He really didn't run well, so they must have had a good plan to kind of keep him contained in the pocket, because he's usually very dangerous and he's a big, strong guy. And you just hope for Buffalo's sake he doesn't get hurt, because he's not a guy. He gets contact a few times a game. So for me, that's a pass game only because I think it's an over game.
Yeah,
because they're gonna run all over the Chiefs. And whenever we think of Mahomes, who now has as many interceptions, 6 now, that he had all of last season. So there's a little disconnect there as well. Mahomes isn't quite Mahomes, but that hasn't stopped them from scoring a lot of points. And I think they will score a lot of points. But I think the Titans, you're right. The only way they don't score a lot of points at the Titans because of their running game can, you know, win the possession game like 37-23 or something in minutes. But yeah, that's an interesting game. I would think more over than one team or the other. But the Titans lost to the Jets and they beat the Bills. You can't get more higher or lower than that. And again, I'll defend the Titans one more time and just say they had no receivers in that game. And now they've got, I think Julio Jones is back. And he hasn't been Julio Jones yet. He made that incredible. I guess we should talk about that helmet catch. I mean, that's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. It was going to be pass interference anyway, because
unbelievable.
The corner didn't turn around. Then the 11th hour, I get it hit him in the helmet. And somehow Julio Jones made one of those incredible catches. And somehow, first it was called incomplete, but he kept his feet inbounds. It's an incredible play. Of course, in my mind, it does not surpassed the world's greatest catch that everyone forgot about in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, late in the 4th quarter, up a touchdown. He made the most incredible catch. I still don't know. If you watch the replay, his body was like out of bounds.
His fingers extended like 9 more inches.
Yeah, and it was like his feet were 7 feet tall, and he somehow stayed in. And they could have taken 3 knees and had Brian kick a field goal and win the Super Bowl. I swear that's true.
I know, it is true.
You know, I was at that game with my son. I was like, man, it's over now. But then they screwed it up. And nobody remembers that catch. But I would vote that one of the greatest catches ever and it just didn't matter. This was a kind of a freaky catch, but it just shows you the athleticism of Julio Jones that he was able to go get that catch. But, the Titans are a much better team, obviously, with wide receivers, as all teams are. But they did lose to the Jets, Joe.
They did lose to the Jets. You are correct, my friend. Got to keep that in mind. Another interesting game. Since they came back from that huge deficit against the Colts and Lamar Jackson, all those touchdowns late in the fourth quarter, despite fumbling at the one a couple times, they then went on to crush the Chargers last week. Again, week to week, Chargers are one of my. I think I picked them to win the Super Bowl or to be in the Super Bowl. Were awful. Playing the Bengals 4-2 this year, and Joe Burrow's a player, and with Lamar Chase, I mean they got a nice combo there. But I like to see teams where if we're going to play a team that's on a roll, and they seem to get better. They've been getting better each week. And Lamar Jackson, again, I love the fact that he kind of just forgot about what happened early in the Colts game, kept doing his thing, and then they killed the Chargers, which was impressive.
I agree. The Ravens, of all the wild cards you talk about in the NFL, Lamar Jackson to me is the biggest wild card in terms of not that he's going to play bad or good. Is he going to play good or phenomenal? Because once he gets outside, and he can throw it now too, he's a much better passer this year than in years past. And he, I think, is probably the best weapon all around in the NFL. It's not Tom Brady. It's not Patrick Mahomes. I think it's Lamar Jackson. Their defense is good, not great. I thought their defense was better than it's been. But as you said, maybe I shouldn't say that after they shut down Herbert and the Chargers. So I kind of that's one of my picks. I kind of like Jackson, although you're right, the Bengals are good. Chase sat out LSU last year for COVID. And the year before, when we were talking about our guy Justin Jefferson catching 4 touchdowns in the first half of that semifinal game, Chase was the guy who won the Biletnikoff Award as the best receiver in football.
Yeah, he's very good.
And he was kind of forgotten a little bit after Jefferson did what he did. And then Jefferson was a year ahead of Chase. So Jefferson went into the draft. The trivia question, who was drafted before Justin Jefferson? If you don't know it by now on this show, you'll never know it. But Rager's fast, he's fast. So, but my point is Chase sat out the COVID year. So you might have thought he slipped through the cracks, but the Bengals got him, and they've been like they've been in college. He's had the dropsies in the exhibition season, you'll remember. And everybody, and now later on, after the first few games, when he makes some catches and scores, people were criticizing him because he had the dropsies. Yeah, well, he dropped 3 passes in like a half. So you should criticize him, but now he's not dropping them. So, when the money's down, when the lights are on, he's playing great. But I still like the Ravens in that game. I think it's just too much. Andrews is one of the best tight ends in the NFL that nobody talks about. And he's really like the comfort guy, if you will, the bailout guy for Lamar. So I think you're right about the Bengals, but I just think the Ravens are too tough. I think they're going to go on a real roll now, regular season roll. I picked them 1 year to win the Super Bowl, and I won't pick them again because they just have not gotten it done in the playoffs. But maybe this is the year. You never know.
You never know. Interesting game in Vegas. Now, I think in the last, I don't know the exact stat, but when a team has fired a coach mid-year or resigned or whatever, they go on to win that next game, but then lose the following game. And when I think it sets in a little bit, maybe they play on motion the first week. Raiders are only a 3-point favorite over maybe the worst first 3 quarters team I've ever seen, who have covered in the last 2 weeks. And not only that, have come out 1-1. If it's worst football you will not see for the first 3 quarters of the last 2 weeks. They're talking about your team, your town, your Philadelphia Eagles. What do you think of this game?
When I first looked at it, I kind of like the Raiders, but I heard that stat that you just talked about. I kind of like the Eagles after looking at it because they just, it's what you said, it's the second game. Will there be a letdown? But, say what you want. The Eagles covered, much as it hurts me to say that, covered against the Bucs, and they beat Carolina. And I gave them no chance in either game. And I thought the Bucs game would be a slaughter.
A slaughter.
So I give him credit. Hurts is not quite yet the passer. He's still kind of the runner. He's improving slightly. No Lane Johnson for a few weeks hasn't helped him. You got to give him a little, or any quarterback, you got to give him a little time. Their defense is playing pretty well, I think. And so this was originally, I kind of like the Raiders, but it's a pass game for me. But if I had to pick now, I'd pick the Eagles with a chance for the upset, because I totally agree, and your stat proves it, that there's got to be, by definition, a letdown. And the way this coach was let go, it was not for losing.
Right.
And so Gruden did some incredibly stupid things. And the fact that in the 21st century, it took years, literally years, to find out things, not only from 2011, but 2015 and 17 and 18. So the problem for his is this was a continuing pattern for like 7 years. He would have been better off in retrospect if someone found it right there in 2011. He would have taken his lumps for a few years. There wouldn't be these other ridiculous emails where, look, when you're hanging out with your friends, you kind of show yourself more. And when you're writing emails to your friends, I guess you show yourself more. And he got caught. I don't think, you said it before, I don't think he comes back from this. He's kind of like Cuomo in New York.
Yeah.
He thinks he might come back from that, but nobody in New York thinks he's coming back from that. And, guys in New York like Elliot Spitzer, they just kind of faded to black. The other guy, the guy whose wife worked for Clinton, I can't remember his name.
Oh, yeah, I know him, man.
But these guys, they all fade to black. They probably have some cushy job with a relative or something where they're making money.
Playing celebrity golf, yeah.
Right, but in terms of making a comeback, I'll say it again, if that happened to Gruden in 2011 and he disappeared for a few years, he might have been able to make a comeback. But once you have a 7-year pattern of doing that, especially in the era we live in now, Joe, I don't think he comes back from that. So my point is, though, it wasn't he got fired for incompetence of losing, so you have a bad team. The Raiders are a good team.
Good team.
Are they a real good team? No, but they're a good team, and Carr's having a good year. So I won't be shocked if they win that game. But when you look at it, I think there will be a general letdown. And for me, it's a pass game. Although originally at first blush, I kind of like the Raiders. When I looked a little deeper, I'm going to stay away from that one.
Good call. I am too. And since we talked about, you just mentioned picks, I'll start and get it out of the way because I was 0-3 last week. I'm now under 500 from the year. I was doing okay. I'm 8-9. I had the Titans. Wait. What does this say here? At New England. Oh, I'm sorry. That's this week. Where's last week? Well, I was 0-3. We had the Bills. We had, I just wrote it down. I'm sorry. I was 0-3. Trust me. I'm not making that up. Tampa, I think, was in the play. This week, I mentioned I'm taking the Titans plus the 4.5 until the Chiefs tell me they can stop anyone. I'm going to go hesitantly New England over the Jets, minus the 7. I'm going more for, I need to see New England play well against the rookie like they did earlier. You mentioned, though, that the quarterback, his name escapes me, for the Jets, through
Zach,
4 picks.
Zach.
And I'm sorry,
Zach.
yes, that's right. They weren't Belichick related either, but
I didn't think so.
It's a week to week. You never know, but they haven't been playing all that, playing to the level of their competition, which is my concern. But I'm still going New England here, and I'm going Baltimore over the Bengals, like we talked about, 6.5. How about you?
Well, I was 2-2 last week, but I really thought the Bills were going to maul the Titans. So that shows you what I know. I'll say it again. At the end of the game, I was rooting for them to be stopped.
Right, of course. Oh, here it is. Real quick. I had the Chargers. They got smoked. I had the Browns got smoked worse, and the Bills, and we know about that. So that's my own 3.
Yeah. Before I make my picks, I was 2-2 last week, but I want to talk briefly because I thought it was an incredible game. Cowboys beat the Patriots in overtime.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to talk about
35-29. And that's what scares me. I'm going to pick the Patriots as well, but that's what scares me. They lose 19-17 to Tom Brady. They pretty much shut Tom Brady down. Then they're lucky to beat the Texans.
They were down big in that game.
They were down 22-9, I think it was. And
Mills, baby.
And then they give, who looked like Tom Brady. And then they gave Dak all he could handle. They put up 35-6 in overtime. But I'll say it again, that Chiefs game last year, the Tom Brady game this year, And this Dallas game, to me, the Patriots have almost no business being in it. The reality is Mac Jones is playing really well. It's not really a Mac Jones issue. I understand everybody saying, oh, he dinks and dunks. He doesn't throw the ball down the field. He's a rookie. Name me a rookie quarterback who's playing better than him.
Right.
Name me a second-year quarterback besides Herbert, who's really done more than him. And look at their rookie years, all of them other than Herbert. And nobody's played better as a rookie than him. I think one of the problems is he really, you give Belichick credit for getting those two tight ends who are really good, not superstars, but really good. But the wideouts, you barely know them. The Myers is a good receiver, but they got Aguilar. He's been more like an Eagle than a Raider, right? Wasn't he great on the Raiders? Wasn't that where
great on the Raiders, making less than $1 million 1 year deal?
Well, now he's making real money, but he hasn't been. He's been more like an Eagle, where he was okay, than like a Raider. So they thought, I think, that he was going to be the solution, and they really don't have the wide receivers. And you remember last year, I thought one of the reasons Brady left was because he had that same group of no receivers in 2019. And I remember saying last year before the season, if he plays like he played last year with the Patriots, he might throw for 5,000 yards. And he threw for like 4,600. And they took him out for a whole half a game. So I was being a little ridiculous, but making the point. And then Brady went out and he's playing arguably even better this year. But I did want to just mention that game, give the Cowboys credit. They survived. But I'm worried, as you are, that the Patriots just play to the level of their competition. The other thing, which is incredible and has not happened in the Belichick era, and even though I'm going to pick them as you did, they're 0-4 at home.
Yes, that's incredible.
That's incredible. But I'll give you my 3 picks this week. So I am going at New England, 7 over the Jets. Again, they had 4 picks, and I don't think it was Belichick confused the guy. I think he was just terrible. And the Jets defense is not terrible, but I still think at home, I don't know if finally, because again, he played really well against the Cowboys. Is this the explosion where they finally put up 42 points?
Right.
Again, the Jets defense is not bad. It's not like they're playing one of those other, the Texans or somebody. But I'll take the Jets New England -7 over the Jets. I'm going to take Carolina -3 over the Giants. The Giants are a mess. People who thought they'd be good, I think, were delusional. I didn't think they'd be this bad. But they lost Blake Martinez for the season. He's their defense. He's the play caller. He's the middle linebacker. He's one of the top 5 tacklers back when he was with Green Bay and even with the Giants in the NFL. They lost him. But on offense, Galladay's not coming back. Barkley's not coming back. They lost their left tackle, who's their best lineman, and they have a bad offensive line. So I just think Carolina could do it. Whatever you think of Sam Darnold, he tied up that game against the Vikings. They lost 34-28 to the Vikings in overtime. Vikings are much better than the Giants. And I just think the Giants are in for a long season. And I'm also going at Baltimore 6.5 over the Bengals. I just agree with everything you say. The Bengals are good. I just think the wild card is a leading candidate for MVP right now. And he just can run it a little better than most of these other quarterbacks or all of these other quarterbacks. And he can throw it pretty well this year. As I said before, Andrews, the tight end, is his security blanket is what I was looking for. Their defense is good, and they shut down the Chargers. So I understand the Bengals are good. I just don't think they're going to be able to score a lot of points. So I'll take the Patriots, Carolina, and the Ravens.
Okay, we shall see. Hope we can continue a good year. Now let's talk a little hoops before we get out of here, bro. This just in, multiple sources, including Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN, who knows everything about everything. Ben Simmons, the story of the NBA right now, spoke to Doc Rivers, Joel Embiid, and the entire 76ers team today. That would probably be the first time since he's been in town, and accepted everyone needs to take responsibility. Well, I'm not sure what everyone else did, but it's fine, including himself. But Simmons informed them all that he's not mentally ready to play yet and needs time. He also informed his medical staff, same thing, and he's not ready to go yet. They play at home tonight. He wants no parts of that Philly crowd. I don't know how this is going to play out. I've never seen anything like it. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think he must have heard, I don't know if you probably heard the Daryl Morey statements the other day. And the final statement was, and he was saying, look, this could take a long time. We don't know what's going to happen. We can't get a star for him. There's no way we're trading him for reserves. But the very last thing he said was, this might take a very long time. It could even take 4 years.
Can you believe that?
Which is all he has left on his contract. Now, I wonder if Simmons heard that, because he's already losing a ton of money.
Ton of money.
I wonder if he heard that and said, nobody's going to offer a superstar for me. He's got to know that. If he doesn't know that, his agent is telling him that. And I'm not sitting around for 4 years. I got a career. The best thing he could do, frankly, to me, Joe, would be to come back, play really well, and somebody will want him. You know, apparently you hear there are a few teams who are sending out feelers, but they've got the 76ers over a barrel. They're not going to give them a superstar. So I don't even think when they do trade him, and I think they will, they're not getting the superstar. They might get a really good player, but they're not getting the superstar. But right now, they're probably only being offered draft picks and some reserves. And the process is over to me. All those years of the process is over. And it doesn't look like, frankly, even if he comes back and plays well, we're not putting the 76ers on the level, because we see what happens in the playoffs. We're not putting them on the level with the Nets or the Bucks, probably, or the Lakers. So I think it's hard to say that a guy with a 4-year, $147 million left on his contract is in a bad spot, but he's in the bad spot, and so are the 76ers. The best thing he can do is come in and produce, show how great you are defensively, because you are. Maybe take a few 12-footers, maybe shoot more than 34% from the foul line, the lowest percentage in the history of the playoffs in the NBA. The fact that you're not killing yourself, and maybe he is, we've talked about this for how many years now, don't take threes, take 14-footers.
Right, start there.
Show you can do that. And all, you know, we remember Barkley late in the season last year. Oh, Simmons is going to have to start taking outside. And we were like, where you been?
Where you been, Charles?
You going to start now? Maybe he should go cover hockey. Just kidding. Just kidding. I know he's a hockey fan, but now even my son, who loves Barkley and loves the basketball show, he's like, yeah, that was a little ridiculous, Daddy, having Wayne Gretzky shoot at Barkley.
Yeah, a little bit.
He said something like he could have scored 40 goals in a row if he wanted to. I think he hit Barkley once with a rubber puck. I think he hit him once just so he could say he saved one. Got that 20% save percentage now, which isn't very good. But in any event, I think he's going to have to come back and play. And at some point, his agent or somebody who's got his ear is going to say, "Look, you're losing this battle," and he's not. For example, there's rumors now that Deshaun Watson is going to go to Miami. Those aren't official, but there's rumors. That's kind of a spinning contest, but for different reasons, obviously. And they have to get rid of Watson. Now, are they going to keep him like that for a year or 2 or 3? I don't think so. Is Daryl Morey really going to keep Ben Simmons for 4 years? I don't think so. But I think just the fact that he said that means they're willing to wait weeks, if not months right now. And, you know, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
They have the leverage, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they're going to wind up trading him, but they're going to need a better offer. The best way to get a better offer for Ben Simmons is to come in and play, because people might forget what he is. And don't forget, he's better in the regular season than in the postseason, because they play that 4 wall, and they're happy to foul him whenever they can. And that'll be even more so now, because he shot, you know, he used to shoot like 60%. I think his regular season was 61%. When you go to 34, that's horrific. 61 is terrible. 34 is horrific. So I think it ends with him coming back. I think you're right, and it'll be in when they have a road trip of like a few games. Because I don't care when they go to Philly. Did you hear Kelsey?
Yes, I did.
Kelsey talking about. Now I don't know if he should be doing it, but you know, he's Kelsey. He can do. His brother's a lunatic. Kelsey was supposedly, you know, the calmer one of the two. But you know, he was right. he was right. Play better. Play better. He's
Play
right.
better.
So if you don't play, I don't think the offers for him are going to get better while he's not playing. Again, he comes back in, he shuts down a few guys. He can still go to the basket and score a lot. He won't give up on dunks, never mind 12-footers. Maybe he can take some 10 or 12-footers, who knows? Because a lot of that, I think, is in his head. But yeah, I think they're going to have to. He has to do something.
He does.
I don't think he has enough because there's no offers. There's no good enough offers, and the 76ers look like they're going to dig their heels in.
He's got to play himself out of town if he really wants to, and that's exactly what he doesn't want to do. Weird situation. I've seen guys like Harden demand a trade, and guys like that one out of town. But this is
Weird.
a whole different animal. It's really weird. It's a shame because he's not doing himself any favors around the league, his reputation. He's got some serious work to do on rehabilitating his image and his game. We shall see. Anything else on the NBA, bro?
Yeah, I just want to give you a couple of scores. This will be the Joe Staszak any given Sunday in the NFL, but basketball edition. So opening night, you probably watched it. The Bucks beat the Nets, no Kyrie. I think the Nets can threaten for the championship even without Kyrie because they have Harden. They have Harden and Durant. Bucks 127, Nets 104. 2 days later, last night, we're taping this Friday, Miami 137, Bucks 95.
It's amazing.
Now, maybe you'll say, like with the Raiders, oh, this was opening day and they got their championship.
Right.
And
How does that happen?
Rivals who they barely won and they crush them. And then maybe they have a letdown. Miami's better this year. Miami, I think, gets a return to those upper 4 teams or 5 teams. I don't think anyone's touching Milwaukee and the Nets at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I almost think it's kind of wide open. So no, I just wanted to say those scores. I will mention the Knicks beating the Celtics at the Garden in double overtime. And everybody in New York is going nuts. Now, look, Fournier is a very good player. Kemba Walker is a former All-Star. He didn't even play in the overtime. They have Derrick Rose, who's a great backup point guard. And they won 138-134 in double overtime. But they don't really have that super duper star. Randall was terrible in the playoffs. I would say he's the number 2 superstar. And they paid him well. And they had to pay him well. But Randall had 35, Fournier had 32. It's the first time in the history of the New York Knicks that they had 2 guys on opening day score more than 30, which is pretty interesting. It's an interesting stat to me. But also they have both played double overtime, so don't forget that. I didn't go back and look at what they had at the end of regulation, but for all I know, neither of them had 30. But that doesn't matter. It's a good win for them. Jaylen Brown, he's a quiet star, 46, 9 rebounds. They're good, but I think the Knicks and the Celtics are kind of in that second or maybe even the top of the 3rd tier. The Knicks were the number 4 seed last year. They lost to the Hawks. To me, there's no way they're more than the number 3 seed, and I don't even think they'll be that this year. But they're a better team. But the notion that, this is the big turnaround everybody in New York has been waiting for, yeah, you're living in the dream world. And I live in New York, as you know. But, we'll see what happens. But that was a fabulous game. Everybody who's anybody was at the Garden. They won. The place went nuts. But I'll say it again. The Celtics, to me, have taken a step back. No Kemba Walker. They kind of had that team. And by the way, they lost in double overtime. And I think Tatum was 6 for 28 or something like that. That's not going to happen again. So I think they're pretty equal. I don't know if their coach gave up and went upstairs to be the GM. I think he took them as far as he thinks he could take them. But they're a good team, maybe a very good team, but they're not a threat. Tatum and Brown are stars, but if you needed 3 superstars, to me, they'd be 2 and 3. There's very few ones, like the Lakers have 2 ones. And one final thought, if you watch the Lakers, boy, Russell Westbrook looked out of place.
Yeah, he looked not good.
And
but it's only a game. But
he's a ball dominant guy. I think he'll mesh. But I just remember one time when they threw the ball into LeBron and Westbrook kind of came over to LeBron, and LeBron gave him the ball sometimes, don't get me wrong. But Westbrook came over to LeBron to kind of get the ball, as every other place he's played, they gave him the ball.
They didn't give him the ball.
LeBron just, dribbled it up court on LeBron. and they will work that out. But, the other problem with Westbrook is he's not a good shooter. He's a 31% shooter from three.
I know.
And I don't know if it's going to be hard to go to the basket with, at times, AD and at times LeBron posting up. So it's going to be interesting. But for the first game, he looked lost. And you know what? Golden State looked good. When they get Klay Thompson back, and they have that big three from years ago, yes, they're older, but I think they're going to be a factor if Thompson comes back healthy. So we'll see what happens.
All right, good stuff, brother. Enjoy the games this weekend. You can check out Steve's stuff on his Facebook forum page, Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. You can also check out his videos, WestchesterCountyPost.com, also on YouTube. This podcast on YouTube every week. We tape usually Friday mornings. So this will be up probably within a half an hour, 12:30 Eastern time or 12 Eastern time. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Staszak 97. No, that's now 4799. Joe Staszak 4799. Check out my Facebook page too for updates and posting of this podcast weekly. Great job, Stephen. We'll talk to you this weekend. Enjoy the games and great job as usual.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
You too, buddy. Thanks, folks, for watching. Catch you next week.